boys and girls, welcome back to Whalen Wire's Old Iron. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. I hope you get to spend this time of year with your family and have a very, very happy and blessed time. I wanted to talk about this Dirty Dozen a little bit in this video. Some things about that clutch setup, that transmission, and what I know about it and what I think I know about it. and then just kind of lay out some plans for what's hopefully going to be happening here in the next few days and weeks or whatever. But oh, so glad you're here. Just makes my day. Let's take a look at things. I do believe my pants are on fire. Looks like my chair's on fire. I believe my table's on fire. Oops! Hey, welcome to Rat Rodding. My name's Whalen Wire, and don't ever do what we do here on this channel. Okay, I will tell you that this transmission is a Eaton Fuller 10-speed. I believe they called it the Road Ranger. And this truck came out of a 1972 GMC 9500. Okay, I had to come up with some way to make this clutch work.
And now, it's story time with Uncle Whalen.
I mentioned that in the video that I needed to build this mechanism to release the clutch bearing, throwout bearing, and a gentleman contacted me, a guy back in Michigan. I say back in Michigan because I'm on the West Coast. I'm out. We always say out, up, or down. Down in Florida, up in Washington State, or to me, back in Michigan. It depends on where you're located, whether it's up, down, out, in, whatever. But I always say, yeah, he was back in Michigan. But he contacted me and he said, you know what, I've got 2 parts trucks with that exact transmission. And I could send you the mechanism out of there, that whole clutch setup, and boy, I was thrilled about that because, you know, I had nothing. I didn't even know what it's supposed to look like. I could only imagine. So I thought, man, this is great. So yeah, he said they were just parts trucks, and he wouldn't mind sending those parts, taking those parts out and sending them to me, and that maybe I could modify them to fit this smaller 1938 GMC cab, which I have no doubts that I could do that. But was such a nice offer from the gentleman, and I said, you know, that I'm thrilled about that. That would be wonderful. But before I cause you to go all that work, maybe just send me a couple of pictures. Send me some pictures, and it might be something that I could replicate. You know, I love to fabricate, and just send me some pictures, and then we'll see if you need to go to the trouble of taking all that out and shipping it to me. And of course, I would have paid him for the parts and paid for the shipping and all that. Would have been well worth, you know, whatever to me. But anyway, I said, before you go to all that trouble, just send me some pictures. Well, the trucks that he had sat on a different property than from where he lived, and I guess he didn't get there down to that property real often. I'm not sure how far away it was, but he got a hold of me and he said, well, they're sitting in the briar patches, and I'm going to have to take a tractor and drag it out so I can get to it. And well, you know, things happen. And I waited 3 months and never got the pictures, and I thought, well, if he can't send the pictures, he probably can't send the parts. But I get it. And Ken, if you're watching this, I understand, you know, you're a busy man, and you're homeschooling kids and raising a family, and you know, I get it. But here's the thing. I'm kind of glad he didn't send the pictures or the parts or anything, as it turns out, because it forced me to come up with this all on my own, and I'm happy with it. Some of y'all may not be happy with it, but I'm very pleased with it, and it works very, very well. yeah, as it turns out, I'm kind of glad that I didn't get the parts. But this works just fine. It caused me to get creative, and I'm okay with that. I will tell you what I did here. Well, there's a video on all of this, what I did, but it works really well. It's down in here, if you can see down in here. There's a bearing in that. I put a bearing in there and a little shaft and a bearing mount, or mounted the whole thing to the frame. It's bolted in. Maybe I'll put a link to the video because it was a pretty good video. I went step by step and showed everything. And you know, I know this looks a little unorthodox, this big shaft coming up through the floor, but you know, it's only 2 inches wide, so I can lay sheet metal on each side of that with just a very narrow slot in the floor, and it doesn't have to be very long. It only has to be about, I don't know, it only has to be about 3 or 4 inches long, that slot. And there's a way to put some brushes in there or rubber in there to kind of seal up that slot in the floorboard, but I'm obviously not worried about that. Okay, now that video garnered a lot of interest. There was a lot of conversation about the clutch brake, and that this clutch needed to be, when I release it, I needed to be able to push it all the way to the floor, and that would activate the clutch brake. Because some of you don't know what that is. When you get all this spinning, all these gears spinning, you need to be able to stop that spinning so you can put it in first gear. So the gentleman who owned this truck was a businessman, lived a little bit south of here, had a business about 30 miles south of where I live, and he owned a business called the Quincy Sod Farm, and he grew sod, turf, to lay sod in your backyard or your golf course or wherever you need sod. So he drove this truck, and I spoke to him, and he told me that the way that worked was there was a little button up on the gear shift alongside of the high-low range. Let me show you that. You guys know about this. This would be mounted up here on your gear shift, and you'd pop that down or up to get you into high or low range. I can't do it with one hand, but you get the picture. And he said, yeah, it's even made the mount just like that. He said that along with this, there was a little bracket with a red button on it. And he said you push that button down, and that activated that clutch brake. And that would explain all these many little air hoses, because you don't need that many air hoses just to shift the thing from high to low range. But you see, we've got some air and some hydraulics here, and I believe that's what this is all about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little lines, air hoses there. So that's what I think I know. I think that's how this works. Now, I've talked to guys who've driven truck. One of my friends, Stretch, has drove truck a long time. He said, I never saw anything like that. You always just push them to the floor. Well, I'm sure that's the case. And maybe that's how most of them work, but I do know that I read all that material about how that clutch brake would wear out, and it was a pain to change. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they changed that design and made this thing air activated, which is what it appears to be. So until I set it all up, we'll find out. I'm going to go that route first, and I have no reason to not believe that that's how it works, because, like I said, I talked to the gentleman who owned the truck and drove the truck, and who would know better than him? He knows how it works. So I'm going to go that route first, and then shout out to my friend Too Tall down there in Quincy. I hope you had some nibbles on those rigs you were trying to get rid of, and thanks to your dad for giving me the information on this thing, because that goes a long way. Okay, I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion about that, and that's okay, but that's the route I'm going to go right now, because it doesn't take that many air hoses to shift the thing from high to low range. And If that doesn't work out, then we'll go back to modifying this, and we'll just make it work. You know, old Waylon always does. Make it work somehow. Might not look the way you do it, but we'll make it work. Okay, I think that's about all I wanted to say about that clutch mechanism and that transmission and all that. So let's take a look at the possibilities of a fuel tank on this thing. Let me get some cameras situated here. This is a little fuel tank that I picked up. Somebody was hauling it to the scrapyard. And I just grabbed it because I know it's small, but it was new and it was clean. So the comments, of course, was that's way too small. You can't use that tank. It's too little. Possibility I can mount it here. This is all just temporary, just mock up, just to look at and see if I like it or not. And I'm thinking I don't. But anyway, if this were to be its home, you know, if I put any kind of little flatbed on this thing, whatever I do, I have to put some blocks on this frame, but I can get up above that because I can't go much lower. I gotta have room for my pumpkin. My pumpkin's got to float up and down in there. But you know, I may do something like this. This would mount back in here somewhere quite nicely. The only issue is that it is small. What do you reckon that is? What would you guys say that is? 10 gallons maybe? Maybe 15, 12, 15? I don't know. But it's a nice, fresh, clean tank. And I'm tempted to use it because I have some other options out back, but oh, everything's pretty rusty and old and would have to be cleaned up and treated. And then there's a matter of location if you get much bigger than that. But here's the thing, I'm not going to be driving this thing 80 miles an hour on the freeway. I'm just going to put around here locally in it, you know, and just have a little fun with it, drive it once in a while. I don't think I need a whole lot of fuel, but I'm not even sure this will get me to town and back. It might get me to town, then I'd have to fill up before I could get back and keep some fuel here on hand so I could get back to town to fill up again. I don't know. I know it's horrible on gas. I don't know what it might get. 5 miles a gallon? I don't know, but yeah, that's about all I'm going to say about that. I've got other options. I may figure that out, but I don't think I need a huge tank. But I know this thing uses a lot of fuel. Let's move on to something else. Okay, if there's some newcomers here, which I think there are some new subs, and I appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you. There's some new subs since the last time I fired this thing up or the last time I did a video on it. So I'll just tell you briefly that this is a 702 cubic inch V12. Of course, there's a myth floats around the internet that it's two V6s coupled together, but it's not. It's one solid block with 4 heads. And there's any information you want on this thing, I can tell you a little bit. 702 cubic inch, 275 horsepower, but 630 foot-pounds of torque at 1600 RPM. It will pull your house off the foundation at an idle and just drag it away. So it's just fun, man. It's cool. They built these from 60 through 66. Now maybe that's the V6s anyway. Maybe a little bit longer on these. It seems like some things I've read said 72, but anyway, yeah, a lot of torque, little horsepower, a lot of torque, a lot of fun. These valve covers came on the 1963 models, the little 305 V6s, and you can read up about that because there's a couple different theories on this tartan valve cover. But go to 6066 GMC guy, and man, there's just a wealth of information, everything you could want to know about the V6s of that era and the V12s. And you know, capacity, oil, 16 quarts to change oil. I can't remember how many quarts of water, but it's a lot. It holds a lot. And I got a big honking radiator in there, so hopefully we'll be okay on that. But yeah, go check it out. Read up on this thing. It's just amazing. You can get all the stats on that. So been a while since I've heard it run, and boy, I feel a need, man. I need to smell this thing. I need to taste the fumes in the air, and I need to feel the rumble beneath my feet when this baby fires off. So we're gonna do that, just for fun, just for giggles, you know, because I miss it, miss hearing it run, and let's do that. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about brakes. I think that's probably the next thing I'm going to do. I toyed around with the idea of building the drive shaft for this thing. Where are we at? Oh, there's one of them. I've got several parts to this drive shaft, but as you can see, it's I'll give you a little reference there. It's a pretty healthy sized little unit. Well, I've got the rest of it around. Oh, back here's the one out of the 66 1-ton. That's the rear end that's in this thing and the front clip. But we have to go somehow from this to this, and I've got ideas about how to do that, because this will float here. This will slide. So you got to have that when you're going up and down. You got to have that slide on the shaft. So anyway, I was thinking about going ahead and building that drive shaft. And then I said, you know what, Waylon, old boy, you better put some brakes on this thing first, because I know you. And if you have a drive shaft in this thing, and if it will move under its own power, then you're going to want to be backing it out and pulling it forward and playing around, and you got no brakes, and that's a pretty steep canyon out here that's below my property here. So maybe it would be wise to do the brakes first. What do y'all think? I mean, I know brakes are overrated, but given the circumstances, well, let's consider it. And speaking of this canyon here, my son is very insightful, and he's watched me push this thing out of the shop out there to the edge of the bank a few times, and he got me this for Christmas. He thought that might be a good idea, and I use them quite a lot. It is a good idea. And another thing he did for me was, well, I'll tell you, I'm notorious for working underneath the rig when I got it up on the lift, and laying my tools inside the frame rail, and then I go for the test drive, and I go down the highway, and I hear clink-de-clink, clink, clink, bang, clink-de-clink, clink, and that's tools falling out of the frame on this thing onto the highway. And some of them I find, and some of them I never do find, and he got me this, and boy, what a lifesaver. This is a little tray that I can pop up underneath there and lay all my tools and things in it. It's even got little places for screwdrivers, and that keeps me from laying stuff into the frame and losing it. So that's awesome. Thank you, Trevor. I love you. All right. Brakes. Okay, next, let's since we're considering brakes on this thing, let's just take a look at what we have here. This is what I have. This is what's going in it. If y'all don't know, I'll explain this a little bit. I got some splendid to do, Lucy. This is called a bell crank, and this allows you to put this up under the dash, and then let your brake work at a right angle. Instead of having the booster and everything stick out of the dash, well, this bolts up here, and everything goes to the right underneath the dash, and then your booster goes on here, your master cylinder goes here, and everything's covered up instead of having all that stick out of the firewall and sticking way out here and being really ugly. It all goes that way underneath the dash, and I did that on the Dojelac, and oh, that worked out good. You just pop this open. Turns out that master cylinder sits right under this vent lid here, so to fill it with fluid, you just pop this open, and your master cylinder's right under there. Man, I may have to go out and get all tatted up just so I can be cool enough to drive it. I had to build some brackets to hold this thing in place. This bolts, it's upside down, this bolts to the firewall. And got that on this side, and then this bolts to the firewall, and this bolts to the dash. And boy, I tell you what, when it's in there, it is solid. And I got that part, it's a little too heavy with the master cylinder on there. It makes it really awkward and heavy to try and fit it up under there when you're laying on your back in the cab of that old truck. But this much of it I can handle. I could take it apart even further, take the booster off, but in order to do so, I'd have to cut some notches out here so I'd be able to reach my bolts in there. Once you get up in there, you can't reach these bolts that are down in behind, and I don't want to cut it up, so I can handle that much of it, and then bolt the master cylinder on, and then there'll be a support under the master cylinder that'll hold that weight out up on this end. I'll show that to you once you get her bolted up in there. It ain't going nowhere. Well, as I talked about before, I've got to cut this off. Instead of having it come up over this direction and bend this way and come down, it's got to bend the other direction and come down. So I want a pretty tough piece of metal for that. I tend to overbuild everything, but that's all right. I want some tough stuff, and I don't know anything tougher than an old bush hog blade. So if I can get a section of that out of there and clean it up and have it look halfway decent, I think that's what I'll do. I had to reverse this lever that hangs down under the dash. This is upside down. It used to come out over here and go down, and now it comes out over here and goes down. So I had to do a little modification. And it worked out really good, so I don't know why it wouldn't work out again. At least that's my plan. So yeah, and this has got it's got a little brake pad. Somewhere there's a little tab that you weld onto this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. This little guy welds on here, and then you just screw your tab or screw your foot pad into that, and you got your little brake pedal. And so this is some of what's coming up next on the Dirty Dozen. Let's fire this thing up. The 12 cylinders of Christmas. We're gonna make some well, I don't want to give too much away, but we're gonna build an exhaust system for this thing. I think it'll be pretty cool. Yes, sir. Let's put some push-a-lean in this thing. My dad used to say that. Go to the gas station and put some push-a-lean in it. He was a comical guy. He liked to joke around and have a good time, and he was pretty funny. He just had funny sayings, you know. We'd pass a big semi and had some big piece of equipment on it, and he'd say, well, I don't know what that is, but it sure looks like a good one. You know, just silly things like that. Yeah, so we'll get some push-lean in it. And I remember going to the gas station with him, and he never bought more than $2 worth of regular. $2, he probably, you know, that in those days, the guy would come out and ask you how much gas you wanted. He'd pump your gas and wash your windshield, and some places even do your headlights, and they'd check your oil and air your tires. You know, if you ask them to. sometimes they just did it anyway, but full service, you know, and the guy'd come out and he'd say, $2 worth of regular. That's all he ever bought. But he never said fill it up. $2 worth of regular. Well, at 20 cents a gallon, that was enough, you know. That was quite a bit of gas. So yeah, I'm gonna put $2 worth of regular in it. Let me find my thimble so I can pour it. Yeah, $2 worth of gas. This thing ought to run about 3 minutes, maybe, on that. I don't know. I don't like it can go anywhere without a drive shaft, but come to life.
He's alive!
I think my hose came out of the fuel. But anyway, isn't that fun? Yeah, the fuel pump's working. Oh yeah. Yeah, we just ran out of fuel, I think. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, buddy. A dirty dozen. Well, I want to thank y'all for watching the little 12 cylinders of Christmas right here. I got a couple things to do tomorrow, and then I think I can get started on that brake deal. I don't know how much I'm gonna have to clear out under the dash there, but I'll figure it out. You know, I always do, and boy, that's the fun part of it, man. Figuring this stuff out, how to make it work. I hope that that this inspires somebody, anybody, to get up off the couch and go out in your shop and start working on a project, man. Just do it. You'll be happy. All right, guys, let's nothing left to say. Let's shut her off right here. Well, guys, that'll do it for this time. I want to take this opportunity to wish you all a happy Christmas and New Year and all that good stuff. And I hope you're able to be with your families and have a good time. And we'll see you here on pretty soon. And until I do, I want you to know that I sure do appreciate you. We'll see you soon. Thank you.